Hello everyone, I'm Orfo here. I know it's been a while since my last build video release, and this because my life has been incredibly busy between my masters and personal life. My wife is pregnant with our first child, so that's been incredibly challenging and exciting at the same time. Plus this virus pandemic, it's really been amping my busyness. But I finally managed to get some time to release what is my most effective, most balanced, and at the same time most powerful Magicka Templar build I've ever created. Every time I come up with a new build, I always think I will not be able to improve anymore on that build, but then a new patch comes out and I eventually do. And so this build is absolutely fantastic. It's phenomenal. It's I would say overpowered because it pumps out so much damage with so much Magicka penetration. It's just incredible. It's got really high crit, and even though it wears 5 pieces of light armor, it's absolutely tanky and really survivable. I can use this build on 1vx scenarios quite easily, but really where it shines, it's in small group, particularly because it's a Templar and as a class it's quite an altruistic one. It really works well with others. I've been with this build. I've been really um, making the most of the Illuminate passive that grants me minus sorcery for 20 seconds, and I've been really stacking high on spell damage rather than Magicka pool, although as you can see 35k is a decent amount. And not only that, with this build I can also seriously cripple my opponent's healing abilities, as I can stack together both minor and major defile, capping their reducing their ability to heal themselves to 45%, which is absolutely great, especially in a meta where people seem to be able to pull out so much healing. But anyway, without any further ado, let me just get on with the stats. As you can see, 35k max Magicka, 20k max health, which in Cyrodiil translates to almost 27k. Max stamina, it's a very healthy 17k with a stam recovery of 714. That really enables me to roll dodge, to sprint, to kite. Really, it's mobility is not a problem with this, not even blocking. Magicka recovery, it's marked at just over 1100 there, completely unbuffed, but with a pot. Obviously it goes up to 1200, almost 1300, but to that amount you need to add another 480 from channeled focus and another 600 from elemental drain. So a total just over 1k extra Magicka recovery needs to be added to that amount, to bringing it up to 2300. Spell damage completely unbuffed, it's 3200. That already includes major sorcery, as we're gonna see later. It comes from a set, but when everything procs, when all my sets proc, and by the way, the set that we're gonna be looking at in a moment on a Magicka Templar, basically it procs every time. It's got virtually it's got no downtime. When everything procs, I can hit up to 4.6k, which is incredible, especially considering that my spell penetration is 14.5k. You will also notice very high spell critical both on my front bar, 46.4%, as well as on my back bar, 42.6%. This means that almost 1 in 2 attacks is critical, and that applies to my heals on my back bar. I can go from 0 to full health with just 1 Honor the Dead, because that's the morph I've been using. With regards to my spell and physical resistance, once I am fully buffed, I get 30k spell resistance and 26k physical resistance. I always enjoy a bit more spell resistance because I am a vampire with this build, but when Bloodspawn procs, I get to 36.5k, almost 37k spell resistance, and I get to just over 30k, 31, 32k physical resistance, and this while wearing 5 pieces of light armor. So yes, damage is insane, while tank ability is insane. Magicka recovery is more than enough, as well as my magic and stamina pool, as well as my health level. So it's just an incredible build across the board. As I said, I am a stage 4 vampire, and my Mundustone is the Atronach for increased Magicka recovery. But let me just go very quickly to the juicy bit, which is my sets. Now, on my body, I wear 2 pieces Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn is great, especially on a Magicka setup where your stamina recovery is never that high. It provides me that added bonus, but really when you take damage you have a 6% chance to generate 14 ultimate and increase your physical and spell resistance by 6,300 for 6 seconds, and this effect can occur once every 6 seconds. This means that when you're in combat, this set just procs all the time because there is so much incoming damage in open world PvP. So yes, I've got Bloodspawn as my monster set. Then I've gone back to my good old faithful Rattle Cage. Why would you say Rattle Cage? First of all, because Rattle Cage, while providing major sorcery at all times while I wear it, so freeing one ability slot, it also just provides me with a lot of flat spell damage, which again I can increase not just with major sorcery but minor sorcery as well. So yeah, Magicka Templars really benefit from flat amounts of spell damage. And not only that, it provides me with a very healthy 2 items piece bonus of just over 1k maximum health, really bringing up that threshold a little bit and making me less squishy. I can take burst damage really easily and just heal up very easily from it. So yeah, Rattle Cage, I find it's a great set. If you don't have it, I guess you could run Julianos. It gives you, I would say it will give you more damage, but you would lose major sorcery, so you would have to come up with another slot to get your major sorcery from, or use spell power pots. But yeah, I really like this set. I'm very happy with it. So yeah, I've gone back to it. I've got yes, my Rattle Cage, because it's a heavy set. I only have it on my chest, on my legs, and on my jewelry, so it's up all the time. The other set that I'm using, a light armor set, is Scathing Mage. Scathing Mage has been changed with this latest patch. Before it would proc only on crit damage, whereas now it procs on direct damage. When you deal direct damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your spell damage by 498 for 5 seconds. And again, you remember, spell damage works really well on Magicka Templar, and basically it's got no cooldown. It's got a 5 seconds cooldown, but it's got no downtime, because as soon as the effect is over, it can proc again. And now notice it says that it procs off direct damage. This means that every time you're using your puncturing sweeps, each damage of your puncturing sweep can proc it. And because it can go through enemies, especially in an outnumbered scenario, this thing will proc every single time. It's just insane. I mean, let's try it on this one. See, there's the Q again. There's the Q. it just procs all the time, and this is just one enemy. You just light attack, that's direct damage, and then you go in with your puncturing sweeps, and each strike basically can proc this set. It's just amazing. So Scathing Mage, absolutely phenomenal on Magicka Templar. Now I've not been able to change the trait on each and every piece. So you want really 5 impenetrable. You want all your pieces impenetrable. I think I've got 2 that I've not changed just yet. So I've got an infused and an invigorate, and that brings it down to brings down my crit resist to 2500 rather than 3k. But I'm gonna do that soon, it's no problem. On my back bar, so on my front bar, you might think, why do I have a lightning staff instead of a flame staff? This because I still want to give extra damage to my sweeps and to my ultimate. If you wanted to have a bonus damage applied to all of your attacks, then you'd want to run a 2H sword, because that will grant you 6% damage bonus to every attack. But yeah, I've not been able to acquire a 2H sword, and in any case my lightning staff works really well. On my back bar I've got a nice staff of Death's Wind, and this simply because of the second item bonus, which adds extra armor to my build, making it even more tanky. Now I've gone defensive, well, defending on my ice staff trait. If you want, you can put a powered to boost your heals. I didn't really need to boost them any further, so I just went with defensive, but you can do whatever you want. Now with regards to my consumables, I run withered tree in venison pot roast, so a tri-stud, purple tri-stud food. If you want to use gold food, that will add an extra, well, almost 500 health recovery. You can do that, it's more expensive, I don't need it, so I'm perfectly happy with this one. I run immovability pots, invisibility pots when I'm in a real trouble and I need to get away quickly and nicely. But really, mostly I use these Essence of Spell Critical. Now these don't provide major sorcery because I already have it by default through Rattle Cage. So they only provide major prophecy, so I can have higher crit both on my front and my back bar. And these ones, alongside restoring Magicka and Magicka recovery, they also restore almost 10k health. So when I'm in a really sticky situation, I just pop one of these, then I hit one of the dead ones and I'm at full health, no problem whatsoever. With regards to my skills, on my front bar I've got Dark Flare. Now, why Dark Flare? Dark Flare, not so much for the damage, although it's quite nice, but particularly because it afflicts the target and enemies within 8 meters with major defile for 6 seconds. Now, this one stacks very nicely with the poisons I have on my back bar. Inflicts minor defile, reducing target healing received and health recovery by 15% for 5.5 seconds, almost 6 seconds. Now, when the poison and the Dark Flare hit, what happens is I debuff my target's, my enemy's healing ability by 45%. Then I've got Inner Light at the front. This because it grants me more max Magicka, which is really nice. It grants me free spell critical, and it's something that you might say, well, the critical bonus doesn't really carry over to your back bar, which is true. But I've got Major Prophecy. I get it through my pots, so that's not a problem. Your Stoppling charge, again, not because of the off balance, also because that's gonna get changed very soon, but because it's a great gap closer, and I don't know how people can play without it. As far as I'm concerned, I just can't. So if you want, you can remove this one and maybe put Living Dark or Radiant Glory in it. I don't know, just do whatever you want with the skills. Puncturing Sweeps, absolute must. This is our fantastic spammable, and each strike not only reduces the movement speed of the closest enemy by 40% for 1 second, so enabling you to really land all your sweeps much more easily. But because it's direct damage, as I said, it procs Scathing Mage quite easily. It provides you self-heal for 43% of the damage. It goes through enemies, so you can strike multiple enemies at the same time, and yes, it's just a really good skill. And every time you activate it, you gain minor protection for 6 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 8%, so enabling you to go defensive and offensive at the same time. It's just an incredible skill. And then instead of a finisher, I use Purifying Light, which in this patch can actually crit. Yes, you can't max out the copied damage through incoming damage from other players. You can only max it out with your own damage, but because I pump out so much more damage than before, I find it no problem whatsoever, and this one really becomes my finisher. So normally what I would do is apply Elemental Drain on my back bar. So you want to light attack and apply Elemental Drain to apply the poison. Then Dark Flare. While this travels, I apply Purifying Light, and as I do that, I activate my minor sorcery as well. Then I topple charge into it. Then I start sweeps, and before this expires, I go into my Crescent Sweep, and that's an extra 21k damage that normally finishes off squishier targets, medium and light armor builds in just 1 rep. So this is yeah, great stuff. And then for my ultimate, I have Crescent Sweep, super cheap. Thanks to Bloodspawn, it's basically up every single time, and between Purifying Light and Crescent Sweep, that's my finisher. Then on my back bar, I've got Elusive Mist to get out of sticky situations and kind of reposition. It gives me major expedition for 4 seconds. Honor the Dead, just completely unbuffed. I've got almost 11k health, and it's not critting. Extended Ritual, absolutely phenomenal. Elemental Drain gives me not only minor Magicka Steel, but Major Breach for 23 seconds. And then Channeled Focus, this is with your survivability and Magicka Recovery. Then last but not least, you've got Undo. Now I've not been able to level this up just yet, but when I do, I will be able to enjoy 8% damage mitigation on my back bar as well. And when you block with that, you get this little bubble that helps you with survivability as well. It's a little shield. You might think it's only very small damage that it can mitigate, but very often it saved my buttocks. So yes, these are my skills. Again, this is the way I run it. You can run it whichever way you prefer. Then my champion skills, they have changed altogether. Well, not the skills, but the points I've allocated. So I've got 1 point into Siphoner, 51 into Warlord, 100 into Arcanist, 32 into Tenacity, 20 in Tumbling, 66 into Shadow Ward. And this is where everything really begins to change. I can put more points here, 37 into Elf in Blessed, 56 health from 49 elemental expert, 56 spell erosion, and 72 into master at arms. You see, this one affects your damage done with direct damage attacks, which is basically everything on my Magicka Templar. I don't base my damage on dots anymore because they're not as effective anymore since puncturing strikes, well, jabs in general, they have been changed to direct damage rather than a hybrid of AoE, and the first strike was direct damage, and then the other 3 strikes that were considered as dot damage. So yeah, change things, but it can be a lot more bursty. So 0 points into Thaumaturge. I don't try and reach the exploiter passive anymore because A, it's not a good trade-off, and B, off balance is going to get changed massively in the next patch. Then I got 51 points into Ironclad, 18 into Spell Shield, 51 into Resistant, 25 into Light Armor Focus, 49 into Elemental Defender, 76 into Hardy, and no points here. So yeah, this is it, my Magicka Templar for this patch. If you've got any questions or on the build, and or you've got any comments, just comment on the section down below and I'll get back to you very quickly. So thank you very much for following, thank you very much for your patience and for staying subscribed despite this long break. Really appreciate it, and yeah, I'll see you out there. Take care. Bye bye.